Now, before we talk about who's going to lead enterprise transformation, which is what we want to get to, we should look at what role will AI and agents play in the future of work. Now, or we can flip it on its head and say, what role will humans play in the future of work?
Yeah,
I'll tell you, just before we got asked that, why did you guys word it like that? And one thing we want to tell you is we have not spent the time being very careful with words. And I cannot guarantee that throughout this track, we'll be very careful with words. What I do guarantee is that we'll hold nothing back.
Yeah, we are going to bring up some controversial topics in the next panel, as you will see. I won't reveal too much, save the suspense a little bit. But I do want to take a quick poll and see how many of you have this little bit of trepidation, because we were talking about emotions earlier, whether AI is going to make you more easier life, easier way to communicate, do your, become more effective at work, versus have this trepidation that it could take away jobs, it's going to make it harder for us to figure out what we need to be doing, how to up-level ourselves. So I want to see how many people are very pro-AI, agentic AI, ChatGPT, everything else that we are seeing, okay? And how many are seeing a little bit of worries that we want to address in today's, the youngsters, yeah, definitely wanting to figure out what should we be studying? Should we be becoming programmers, or should we be thinking up-leveling our skills? So the next panel is exactly about that. If you want to introduce our panelists.
We've got Adi Bhashyam from C3, who will be moderating the Fireside chat. We've got Arvind Jain from Glean and Surojit Chatterjee from Emma. We'll leave the detailed introductions to you guys yourselves. We can't do justice.
Please welcome Adi, Arvind, and Surojit.
Okay, just very quickly, I thought we could introduce ourselves. I will not do justice to introducing these two guys, and so we'll just, firstly, thank you all, Surbi, Navneet, for creating this opportunity. My name's Adi Bhashyam. I have been at C3 AI, trying to do what Vishal mentioned just before, which is build apps and use cases that are of immense value despite the hype. I've been there about 10 years, and I think I studied computer science and did neural networks when it was very, very cold back in the 90s. Surojit.
Thanks, Adi. I'm Surojit Chatterjee. I'm CEO, founder of Emma, Enterprise Mission Assistant, ema.co. I spent a lot of time at Google before this, almost 14 years, building and running Google's mobile ads business and product search, product ads. And then I was Chief Product Officer at Coinbase and helped Coinbase go through their IPO in 2021 and stepped out of Coinbase with a bunch of other Googlers and started this company a couple of years back.
And hello, everyone. My name is Arvind Jain. I'm the founder and CEO of Glean. Glean is an enterprise AI company. Think of it like Google or ChatGPT, but inside your company, something that knows everything about your people, your data, your knowledge, and help people with whatever questions they have. Before starting Glean, which was about 6.5 years back, I was the founder of one of other enterprise software company called Rubrik, which is in data security space. And then we were actually colleagues before that at Google for a long time. That's my background. Thank you.
I was your first product manager, I think.
That's actually right, yeah, in Bangalore. Yeah.
That's amazing. I suspect we have each and collectively witnessed and felt a bunch of scars as it relates to building technology, deploying it, breaking it, redeploying it, making it work, and getting people to pay for it, which is a whole journey in and of itself. But I thought we'd take it back to the basics, right? Where the hype is all about agentic and generative and so on. I'll ask Surojit and Arvind, what is an agent according to you? Just how would you describe an agent?
Look, we as a company, we started building agents from the very beginning. In fact, that was the whole point of our company. We called it an AI employee, in fact, universal AI employee, so it can take any form and take any role and so forth. And actually at that point, this was like late 22, when we started tinkering, a lot of people did not quite understand the concept because people are still building foundational models. Action transformers were coming out. Like there are companies, our competitors, kind of starting to build those. We took a different path. In my head, I'll keep it simple. I think agents need to have like 4 things. Today, everybody calls everything agents. I think agents need to have like reasoning ability, and they may be talking to some kind of a model, large language model for that ability. They need to have memory, so they can remember human instructions, just like humans can remember feedback. Both short-term memory and long-term memory, because some memory are contextual in a conversation or in a session. Some memory has to be persisted, and that's a very difficult judgment, actually, that humans have, right? So developing that judgment takes a long time. They need to be able to use tools, just like humans can use tools, right? We can use our arms and legs and do something. They need to be able to use a variety of enterprise tools. And the last thing is they need to be able to pull other agents or other humans into the loop. And that's a very important feature. You can call it collaboration, right? Because if they are just fully autonomous, nobody will trust them. Just like nobody trusts like humans who are in a black box, works on the side in a company, and nobody knows what they're doing. No employer will trust them either. So to me, those are the 4 things that agents have.
I mean, that's a pretty comprehensive definition of agents. But as Surojit, said that today, any piece of software, I think, has become fashionable to call it an agent. And from that perspective, I would say one thing: agents are meant to replace part of your business process. Where you need some human maybe today, which you want to have machine sort of replace them and do that job for them. So the way I think about agents is it's a implementation of a business process that requires you to work with some information inside your company, use the power of language models, do that work, and then save that work again probably in your enterprise systems. And typically, where AI today is that most of these agents are not ready to be autonomous. Most of those, I think if you sort of start to say that, well, they completely replace a business process or a human, I think that's something that we see very little of today. Most of these agents are, let's say, they save sometimes, 50% of the time that a human would have spent, sometimes 90%, but they're almost in the service of a human, augmenting them.
So reasoning, memory, language, use tools, collaborative, does part of a business process. Sounds like a lot of people with jobs right now. What is real, though? What is real? What is hype as it relates to all the demos that we see, I've built, I've shown, I've talked about? What's the true state of the art versus the hype? Just give me your perspective.
Yeah, so I think there is a lot of power that AI has today. Depending on tasks, wherever you have a piece of knowledge work that requires you to do a lot of analysis or a lot of information that's spread all across your enterprise or on the web, you can actually build agents that can do work that humans would have taken 30 hours, 50 hours of time, and AI can actually do that work for you in less than a minute. But agents are not AI is actually hardly precise. We heard from Dr. Sikka that there are a lot of hallucinations, a lot of issues. So if you're thinking about replacing a business process that relies on precision and accuracy, that's not where agents today are at all. But if it is around making sense of complex information that's distributed across the world, they will actually do a pretty good first pass of saving you a lot of time and doing research and analysis for you that then you can use as a human to win, to get advantage. So I think they're making real impact. We're seeing a lot of use cases, especially in the enterprise across many different departments in a company, like whether it's HR teams, sales teams, support teams, engineers. They're all like the real benefits today. In fact, like some statistics that I'll share for software engineering. You go and talk to people using code gen tools and code gen agents. They'll all tell you that like when moving at 2 times the speed that I was before. Support agents in the enterprise are like we have customers ourselves, large customers with hundreds of thousands of customer service agents, and we are bringing 40 to 50% improvement in case resolution time. So there's real impact that's happening with agents today, but of course like they have to be used in a safe way, and like ideally with like a human supervising their work.
Surojit?
Yeah, I think what Arvind said, I agree with most of it, all of it actually. Where we are seeing a lot of traction is customer support. It's actually, it turns out AI agents are often more accurate than human agents, and that's a very important point, right? Does it need to be 100% accurate, or is it okay that it's as accurate as humans in average? And how do you actually manage humans who are also making mistakes, right? How do you, and you'll use the same techniques. So there is a lot of actually thinking involved in deploying these agents in the right way. We are seeing traction in HR, employee experience, like or HR automation. We are seeing a lot of traction in sales automation, like business process, sales process automation as well. But then we have today in production deployment in a variety of other use cases, right? Finance, healthcare, kind of prior authorization of treatment and things like that, insurance, and so on. In all of those cases, the underlying theme is really understanding the guardrails, the error bar that you can tolerate, which errors you can tolerate, which errors you cannot tolerate, and how would you correct for that error or monitor for that error? Because it will not be 100% accurate, but that doesn't mean it's also useless.
I'll give you an example far closer to all of you very personally. When you get your property assessment bill twice a year and you shell out a large check to your county, and not in Santa Clara County yet, the entire assessment is a system that is a machine learning model that spits out the value, comes up with the rationale for why, finds 20 comparable properties, writes the summary, and produces the assessment report, all in one system. It combines an agentic workflow, you can ask it things, and then does all the math behind the scenes to spit out an assessment report that gets filed along with your bill.
Is it a C3?
That's one of the use cases that we deal with.
So I know who to contact now to manage my taxes.
I refuse to unleash it on Santa Clara County, so that's later. But that's how far we can push this thing. But to the shared perspective, I think we're seeing a lot of human-in-the-loop type use cases, right? Where someone was describing this as all the boring work goes away, and I get to have fun doing the interesting work. So let's talk about that for a second, because I suspect every aspect of an enterprise needs to be re-engineered as this thing takes hold over the coming years, decade, etc. So I'm going to ask these folks 3 questions, and you can answer them kind of together. What roles do you think are the first to go in an enterprise? Right? Like vanish. We don't need them anymore. Right? We don't need, Surojit, you told me this example. You don't need like phone operators that plugged in 2 cables to connect a phone call. What's the role that's the first to go in an enterprise?
Yeah, I think, look, customer support is a kind of an easy target. Not like 100%, but it can be reduced to like 10% of its current size in many places, and then progressively smaller, right? I think they'll still need some humans in some critical cases and so forth. I think a lot of what I call at Google we used to call it KTLO, like keep the lights on work, which turned out we had really great engineers, and then whenever we'll say, oh, this feature, why is it delayed? Because 50% of the engineer's time is in KTLO, right? So, and it's not just engineers' time. I mean, these are, very highly paid, very creative folks. They're spending 50, 60% of their time in like grungy work, right? Mundane work that can be automated. If you look beyond engineering, look beyond tech companies, 80, 90% work today is of that nature. And I think that can be effectively automated in next 5, 10 years. I think the enterprises of future will be much leaner. It doesn't mean people won't have anything to do. We'll talk about that maybe. But it just means, I think it's like all the soul-crushing part of your job goes away. You get to do more interesting and creative work, not just filling out a spreadsheet like day in and day out and so forth. So,
yeah, I will maybe add a little bit of a different viewpoint. Today everybody is like talking about automation and how like AI can do do the work of a customer service agent, or like for that matter, do the work of a software engineer. Like many new grads, they come and ask me should I be studying computer science anymore? And these are people from Stanford, the brightest of them. There is some truth to that, which is a lot of our work that we do today, we won't be doing anymore in the next few years. We won't want to do it, and we don't have to do it. But it does create this issue, is the vision that now my team, I have I'm a large enterprise, we have 100,000 people, and we will have in future only 10,000 people because everybody can move at the 10x pace. I hope it's not, the direction that we all go in. Like just today, I was actually at a round table where, somebody from a large Chinese company was saying that they had a job, they had a job opening, they had 5 roles open, and that 15,000 people actually apply for them. So it's already in parts of the world, you're seeing this issue of with automation comes the issue of unemployment, and we have to actually figure out how to create new type of work very, very fast, because a lot of work that we do today is going to go away. But thinking from a perspective of a large enterprise with 100,000 people, well, they're a large enterprise, they're a huge business. A lot of it is because of that, the institutional knowledge and the people that they have. And so hopefully, we are not going to eliminate any jobs. And, it's just that those companies will still have those 100,000 people, but they'll be able to do a lot more with them, build a lot more products, or products, which are way better than what we have today. So that's sort of my take on it. So I hope no roles goes away. Everybody gets to learn with AI, become an expert, and become a 10xer.
Okay, all sounds good, but how about, talk to us about some practical challenges. We've all been in this business of trying to deploy these systems, get people to use them. What challenges do you see as enterprises try to use AI systems? What are the biggest issues they're running into? And what are the biggest objections you're seeing? Not the doom and gloom objections, but the practical things that are preventing adoption use across the board. Arvind, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I can go first. So we've been in business for over 6 years. That makes us actually the first enterprise Gen AI company. And over those years, we've worked with some of the world's largest enterprises, and there's a long list of challenges that you face. Number one, models are all trained on the world's public knowledge. So try to make them work in your enterprise, and you realize that they don't know anything about your enterprise, your business. So just it doesn't work. You have to do something about it. So then we, techniques emerged like RAG and connecting your enterprise data with models. Some of the problems that there's a lot of pushback for are around security. Is my data going to actually get leaked outside my enterprise? Will the rest of the world know about my proprietary information? Or within your company, how do you make sure that as you build models, you're not leaking information to employees who, like any classified information, any sensitive information you have inside the company? How do you make sure that AI is not making things worse from a point of view of security and governance? There is one other challenge which I will mention, and then I'll pass it to you, which is a lot of like AI is about working with data, knowledge, and information inside your enterprise. And oftentimes, that's a very complicated environment that you are in. Imagine a company that's been around for 5 decades. They got tons and tons of documentation and information that's present in their systems, and a lot of it is obsolete, out of date, incorrect, in today's world. So when you try to actually make AI work inside your business context, oftentimes you run into these issues that you got like really bad data to start with in your company, and now you're making AI sort of learn and answer questions or do work based on that incorrect, imprecise information. And that sort of causes a lot of issues, and people get disappointed as they deploy AI products. So those I would say are the top challenges that I've seen, that our customers face.
Yeah, maybe I'll add a couple of them. I agree on the data point. What we see is not just they have a lot of data, stale data, of course. Sometimes they don't have anything written down also. It's like in their head, tribal knowledge. They have hundreds of people, or somebody knows something. So getting that data out of people's head in itself is a challenge. Like data about information about things, and also process-related information. The other thing I'll say is people. So data, people, and tech. I think of this in 3 dimensions. Often we face the challenge that the very people who need to train our AI employees, we call them AI employees, they're multi-agent systems, are threatened by the technology, that their job will be obsolete. So there is a sense of like, why should I help? Because it's going to make me obsolete. So conquering that challenge and helping them understand, like what Arvind was saying, it will actually help you become like 10x more productive and useful to the company. And I think the technology-wise, look at, we talked about hallucinations. The tech is still evolving. The other challenge is legacy systems. Often the systems don't have the right interface, right API. You can't even access some data out of some systems. In fact, that's where a lot of the previous generation of SaaS thrived on it, which is I am going to put my data in a lockbox, and you can only access through my UI, and you'll pay me a fee every month, a rent to access. That is a challenge, right? And there are different ways to conquer that challenge, but I think the industry will evolve a lot to solve the data access challenge in the next few years.
I'll color in that a little bit and give you 2 more elements of perspective. Security matters a lot. We've had to figure out how to deploy on-premise in a 3-letter agency secure deployment with no access to the internet, while supporting 15 new systems we'd never seen before, with no internet access and high performance requirements on LLMs. Right? Try solving that. It took us a year. It's not easy. But I'll give you another quirky example just for fun. We're working with a refinery that was built in the early 70s. The only source of data for a certain structural element was a hand-drawn P&ID diagram with the notion of a valve where someone had scratched it with his hand with a red ink and said, "No such valve." And it circled it. That was the only source of information for that object in the entire enterprise. Right? And when the system we were setting up was to plan a turnaround of that refinery, we had to build a model to extract specifically that element from the picture in a PDF, and then translate it to language, and then update the BOM or the architectural diagram of what's where, and then update systems back. Right? So these are the types of things you run into. But there are 2 other things that we run into that are actually hard to forecast. One is the rate of change of the underlying technology is much faster than the rate of change of deploying the technology. So you start doing something today, by the time you finish, I have 3 more versions of the product, And it is far better, and it doesn't work as well in terms of what I've deployed. Very hard to bring enterprises up to speed, right? And it's like, and you can always demo the good stuff, and they get the bad stuff. And that is constant. And a more fundamental issue is testing is mechanized, usage is human. I can deploy a system with 90%, 95% accuracy on the test set, and it fails in the human context. Like literally fails. Why? Because, I don't like the way it said that. And where you said that, but you forgot that this was actually context from last year, that this is not anywhere. And so people lose trust very quickly. And if you have humans, in case deployment teams and engineers, trying to anticipate what you as a user is going to ask the system 3 months from now, you will fail. And so usage and user adoption of systems is far harder than it seems. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Okay, I'm getting questions from the audience. I have one last question for these guys, and then we'll throw it open. And maybe the audience will ask a similar question, but knowing all of this, what advice will you give to your kids about what to study today?
Full disclosure, my son is going to college this year, and he, in spite of me trying to tell him otherwise, he chose to go to do computer science. He's going to UC Berkeley computer science. So we'll see how it turns out. I don't think like computer science will go away. If anything, or coding will go away, right? I think actually there will be more coders. Because think about it, now everybody can be a coder. You can do vibe coding all day long. So if you have a logic in your head, you can manifest it really easily, quickly. And finally, you can build a good prototype, but to build production code, you still need to probably get folks who know how to do that. I have a very optimistic view, which is all this will actually create more wealth, more opportunity in technology for everyone. It will not look the same, right? And it's hard to imagine how it will look sitting here today. But I think if you look back, that's what technology has always done, right? Anyway, I'll keep my answer short.
Well, so my kids are also at the age where my advice doesn't matter anymore to them. But actually, I heard an interesting thing, from my son. Like he's a junior in high school, and he was saying that like why should I study things that are about knowledge? Because I can always just ask questions in ChatGPT, and it can actually summon all the world's knowledge to me. So I should probably do something which is not so much about reading and learning and figuring out how the world works, because I can figure it out whenever I need it. And my response to him was that well, you never would do that. I think all the learnings that we have that we think not relevant to our job, actually they are. So I don't fundamentally think that anything changes with this AI. I think maybe we're giving it too much credit at the moment. Whatever your kids want to study, I think they should just keep following that path.
So my kids are a little younger. So my point of view is I think the details, filling in the actual colors, will get automated. But assembling the blocks and the system engineering of what needs to work with what and how remains a fundamentally hard problem. Because that requires empathy, that requires understanding the customer to, again, Vishal's point before. And my wife's studying to be a therapist. So I'm all about learn psychology and learn systems engineering, do those two things. You'll be fine. Okay, questions from the audience?
Awesome. Testing this mic, yeah.
Please ask some controversial questions.
Yeah, I kept it sort of easy, but...
Okay, so here you go. I'm going to ask you something. It's okay, so it's more of a comment too, right? So you guys are in the weeds, you are building the systems. Vishal also wasn't half as optimistic as I expected him to be. Your investors, on the other hand, right? Vinod Khosla Ventures, a whole bunch of them, extremely optimistic. And like in what you asked, the last question about jobs going away, they believe coding jobs will be the first ones to be eliminated. They believe expertise, oncologists, rocket scientists, all of these, what we consider specialized areas, will disappear. Right? A farmer and an oncologist will be doing the same kinds of jobs. So, I don't know, they believe in it, they're putting the money behind their vision, billions of dollars, okay? I don't know if I'm convinced about that, but they are really convinced and they are investing huge amounts of money. So just wanted, more of a comment, I guess, or a perspective. But it's more, I think, the venture optimism versus, you guys building out stuff right now.
Well, I'll say one thing. I think you said software engineering jobs are the first to go away. We're still having very, very hard time finding software engineers. We are trying to hire a lot. There's nothing in our roadmap has actually made us feel that we want to hire less. And I think part of that is that it doesn't matter how much one person does. There is so much work that needs to get done that, even if we are on a per capita basis doing 3x the work that we were doing before, which by the way is not true, but even if we're increasing, I don't think it's going to reduce the demand for engineering, in general. And the optimism, I think, comes for a reason. This is the most powerful technology. You see it, you feel it. It's you make the decision yourself. Have you seen anything like ChatGPT before? So that's sort of what brings optimism in the venture industry. And we feel the same way. The product that I started this company 6.5 years ago with a vision. I didn't foresee what language models, how better they would become. We were using them on day one. We had them at our disposal. We saw they were super powerful, but they became 1,000 times more powerful in the next few years after that. And it's allowing us to actually create product experiences that were just simply not possible before. So there is real optimism that this technology actually significantly expands the potential and the TAM for the software industry as a whole. So many things, which were really not in purview of software because it required humans to work on and build those things, now can be done by software.
How many of you helped a fellow human being from today morning? I know many of you drank coffee, food, lunch, and everything. Did you help anybody today? Yeah. That is what I'm building, a non-profit. It's called Help for All. So when ChatGPT came with this OpenAI technology in 2023, I attended IIT conference immediately here. So in that conference, when Jensen came here, we were talking about how do I build my next venture that makes millions or billions. But I started my nonprofit at that time using ChatGPT in my nonprofit. So my question is, why are we not using generative AI for helping humans?
Why are we not using technology to help humans? At some level, we are. If you think about the idea that if you deploy systems that are productive, such as a thing that runs on 4 tires and a machine automation that propels you from one place to another, that is technology that makes the world better. And so I think we're generally optimistic about the use of these things in every aspect of every life, whether it's industries, enterprises, state governments, local governments, law and order, whatever else. And I think, frankly, we're only scratching the surface as to how these things will play out and affect every one of our lives. And frankly, that is the potential in terms of what remains to be built, remains to be done, and I think it's infinite.
Have you eliminated any jobs, or are you planning to eliminate any jobs, any roles?
We have not eliminated, just like Arvind was saying, we are always hungry for engineers, and it's hard to hire engineers and so on. There are certain jobs I think we have not created. Like HR, we don't have, we have someone signing offer letters, but most of the HR ops staff, today our AI employee does it. A lot of our support, internal, again, our AI employee, our sales engineer, salespeople have technical questions and they will ask, right? Just ask our AI employee. So a lot of those, we don't intend to create because they can be all automated.
If you don't mind my not standing up, my question is the following, and any one of you can answer or more. So far, much of the recent focus has been on LLMs and so on, or simple prediction type things. But if you think of complicated decision and optimization problems, on which we've had a lot of AI/ML research preceding all this LLM wave, those problems are still large. Many of them are largely unsolved. And given the efforts now in research to integrate symbolic reasoning and computation with AI/ML, where do you see that on an actual implementation deployment scheme in your experience? Maybe start with Adi and go on to the others.
Sure. What we are doing now, it's a great question because I think that's precisely where we're seeing systems get more and more sophisticated. Today, we can write or we can instruct an agent in our platform to create a basic, call it a level 1 machine learning problem or solution or a basic model, right? Described in a domain-specific language, so it's easy to do, and you do it pretty quickly. What is this? It's a linear regression, right? You can say, hey, tell me the relationship between X and Y and fit a curve and tell me what it looks like. We can do that today pretty well. We can analyze in order of weeks from now into the future, analyze multivariate systems over time and find similar analogous patterns of deployment in the historical record, right? We're about, call it 2 months from that point. We're probably a year away as we can see it, where we can instruct an agentic system to write a more sophisticated machine learning model on its own and register it, write metadata for it, and invoke it on demand. Depends on how the optimization capabilities evolve on the other side. So things like Gurobi and Cplex and those kinds of capabilities, probably in the same time frame, able to describe an optimization problem and automatically formulate it and ship it, right? It is still early days, but we're getting to the point now where I can see into the next 2 years where I could say, I have a general purpose agent that can describe and create tasks on its own, retrieve results, reason, and come back, right? But right now, today, I still have to do the manual machine learning model and register it and tell the agent there is such a thing. And it works from that point on. So if you think about, that's kind of my perspective of where things are at. So very rapidly changing, but order of weeks and months and years, not more than that.
We have built models which will automatically formulate, from a high-level description of a problem, formulate the right workflow to solve that problem, recruit agents. We have lots of pre-built agents, recruit the agents, and connect them together to almost create a complex agentic workflow. But a lot more research is needed there to make such systems even more autonomous. That's I think things are moving really fast, so it's going to happen pretty soon.
Super. Folks, thank you. Surojit, Arvind, thank you so much for making the time. Surbi and Navneet, thank you for giving us a little space on stage. And thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.